Hello and welcome to this experimental combination of yoga and EFT. So if you've not heard of EFT before, it is known as emotional freedom techniques and also the tapping technique. And it's a really amazing way to release issues that you've had in your body and in your mind, sometimes for many years. So today I thought that we would have a look at anxiety. So we're going to look at yoga for anxiety and begin with a spot of EFT to help us work with anxiety. So quite often when we feel anxious, we feel it in our shoulders, in our chest and in our abdomen, and it does affect our breathing. So we can just start by tapping on the side of the hand. You're just tapping from basically the base of the knuckle. And you can tap on either hand. I just tap with my right hand because I'm right-handed, but you can use either side. And instead of doing a meditation, which we'd normally begin with to settle, today we can just have a moment to breathe. And if you are experiencing anxiety, just see where you're experiencing it in your body. It may be your chest, your shoulders, or your abdomen. It may be somewhere else. And just for a moment, take the time, maybe closing your eyes, and just see where you feel that in your body. Use the in-breath to find where you're holding your tension and your anxiety. And as you breathe out, see how fully you breathe out. If you breathe in and only manage a tiny bit of an out breath, that's fine. Maybe this time as you breathe out a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more. So as you breathe in, you'll let your abdomen push out a little bit. And as you breathe out, maybe once, twice, 3 times, you let the abdomen come in towards the spine. See, your belly button is coming in towards the spine. And that's just releasing any stale breath, any stale air. We're not forcing this, we're just letting this happen. We're still seeing where the tension is in the body. So maybe now, if you wish to open your eyes, you can have a think about where the anxiety is in your body. Just be aware of that. And we're going to start tapping on the different points. So the first point is the eyebrow, the inside of the eyebrow. And you can say, this anxiety. We can go to the outside of the eye. This anxiety. And then under the eye, swap sides so you can see, this anxiety. Let me go under the nose, this anxiety. Then into the chin, the curve of the chin, this anxiety. Then we go into the collarbone area, just down and out a little bit. This anxiety. And then under the arm. This anxiety. And on the top of the head. This anxiety. let's just take a break for a moment. Slow breath in. Long breath out. Let's do that again. Slow breath in. Long breath out. And we can just start tapping on the side of the hand again. So the way I'm choosing to approach anxiety is not by trying to get rid of it, because let's face it, getting rid of anxiety straight away is quite difficult. What I'd like to focus on is dealing with it. When you're actually in the moment, you're feeling really anxious, you feel all that tension building up. Dealing with it in the moment and just coming back to your breath, giving you something to think about, something to come back to and anchor, and just come back to the breath. So we can use this coming back to the breath in EFT, and we can use it in yoga practice as well. So I'm not going to do the traditional really calming yoga poses that you might think of for anxiety. I'm going to do poses that are going to make you work, that might make you break out in a bit of a sweat. They will be great opportunities to practice coming back to the breath, because it's not always practical to just say, stop, I need to do a big forward fold and relax, or I need to tap right in public in the middle of, I don't know, this presentation that I'm giving. It's all about just knowing when to come back to your breath and practicing it with these techniques to begin with. Okay, so let's do another round of EFT, another round of tapping, being aware of the breath. So just say after me, even though I have this anxiety in my body and in my mind, I accept that it's there, and I accept me anyway. And even though I have this anxiety in my body and in my mind, I accept that it's there, and I completely accept me anyway. And even though I have this anxiety in my body and in my mind, I accept that it's there, and I completely accept me anyway. So let's go to the inside of the eyebrow. You can tap with one hand or both hands. This anxiety outside of the eye. This anxiety in my body and my mind. Under the eye. This anxiety under the nose. I can breathe through this anxiety. Into the chin. This anxiety. I can breathe through it. Just below the collarbone. This anxiety. I can breathe through it. Under the arm. This anxiety. I can breathe through it. And the top of the head. This anxiety. I can breathe through it. Okay, so let's bring the hands back down to the legs. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath in. And the fullest breath out you can do. Slow breath in again. And you can do your 1, 2, or 3 breaths out. Okay. And open your eyes. So perhaps for today, if you want to set an intention, it can be to come back to the breath. Always come back to the breath, no matter how difficult or challenging a pose may be. always come back to the breath. So I'm going to go back to my mat. We can begin with opening the chest. So let's begin with the hands together in front of the heart. We breathe in. As we breathe out, interlace the fingers, push the palms away, round the shoulders. Breathe in to lift up the shoulders, raising the heart to the sky. And breathe out as you bring the hands down. Let's do that again. Breathe in, hands to heart. Breathe out, interlace the fingers, push the palms away, round the shoulders. Breathe in as we lift the chest upwards. And breathe out, last one. Breathe in, hands to heart. Breathe out, push the hands away, round the shoulders. Breathe in, open up the chest. And breathe out. Let's now come into a tabletop pose. So we have hips over knees, shoulders over wrists, and let's make sure there's a good crease in the wrists. You might want to have your hands slightly further forward from your shoulders just to make sure that you are comfortable and stable. If your knees are causing you any discomfort, you can tuck your toes under, or, without hitting yourself in the face, you can just tuck your mat under so you have some cushioning for your knees, whichever works for you. Now, let's do some cat-cow. Let's be aware of where our breath is. So as we breathe in, slowly we lower the belly and raise the head. And as we breathe out, bring the belly into the spine as we did to begin with. Really arch the back. Let's breathe in and breathe out. Let's do a few more of these in your own time. Beginning to work into the shoulders, the spine, and the hips. So as we breathe in, we relax the abdomen to let all that air in. And as we breathe out and really arch the back, we pull the belly into the spine to let all of the air out. Let's do a couple more of these. Let's come back to a flat back. Slowly, let's begin to do circles in one direction. Nice and small to begin with. And then maybe get some shoulder movements in there. And then come back to the centre. And let's go the opposite way. Slowly to begin with, nice and gently. And then beginning to get the shoulders involved. Just have a little wriggle around really. Opening up all the places that get tight when you experience anxiety. And remembering to breathe. Let's come back to centre. So this is a great opportunity to fall over. Let's lift up the right arm. Thread the arm through so that you are balancing on your shoulder and your right ear. You can stay here, or if you're feeling comfortable and balanced, lift up the left arm and then tuck it into the crease of the right hip. And breathe. If you're familiar with the Ujjayi breath, feel free to use that. It's a great way to lengthen your exhales. Let's lift up the left arm, bring the left hand back down to the floor. Let's lift up the right arm and bring that down. Let's take the left foot back and then place it in front of the right foot. Turn the right toes back so you've got your right leg a bit like a kickstand. And then let's breathe in as we reach up. And breathe out. Couple of breaths here, opening up into the left side of the rib cage, keeping the right side of the rib cage lifted as well. And let's bring that hand down to the floor, bring the knees back into tabletop, and then we go the other way. So let's lift up the left arm, slide it through, balancing on the left shoulder and the left ear. If you are comfortable here, lifting up the right arm and grab hold of the left thigh by the hip crease. Aiming to keep the right shoulder back if you have gone for the bind. And remembering to breathe. Couple more breaths. Okay, release the right hand, bring it back down to the floor. Reach up for the left arm and place that back down. So this time, I'm going to bring the right leg in front of the left, turn the left foot behind you like a kickstand, so you're going to see me from the back for a minute. And then let's lift up the right arm, breathing into the right side of the ribs, keeping a feeling of lift in the left side of the ribs. And let's bring hands and knees back down to the floor. And let's come back, hips to heels. We're going to take child's pose for a moment. Reaching the hands away as you bring the shoulders back. And if it's comfortable, you can bring your head towards the floor. If your head doesn't reach the floor, you can always use a block to bring the floor to you. And just take a moment to breathe again. So your breathing might be a little bit constricted because we are compressing the abdomen a little. Find the fullest breath that you can. Good. So now we are going to come back up into our tabletop. Walk the hands a little bit further forwards and then lower down the hips. And then we can lower down the head while I bump into my rocking chair. Shuffle back a bit. Let's have the hands next to the ribs. Bring the elbows in, shoulders back and down. Let's have all 10 toenails on the floor. And the inner thighs are rolling towards the ground. As we breathe in, come into baby cobra. Just lift the head and the shoulders off the ground. Moving into a back bend, which is a bit of a challenge for your breathing. And let's come down. Let's come back up onto hands and knees, come back into child pose. Let's come up again, bringing the hips down to the floor, bring the chest and the forehead down. Shoulders back and down, elbows tucked in. Let's lift up again into baby cobra. And let's push up into tabletop, back into child's pose. And one last time. Forwards, hips down, chest down, forehead down, shoulders back and down. As you breathe in, let's come up into baby cobra, enjoying that little bit of a massage for the abdomen as we breathe with the abdomen on the floor. And then let's come up and back into child's pose. This time, let's come up into tabletop. Step the hands forwards a little more. And then slowly begin to lower the chest towards the floor. So we're keeping our hips over our knees. We're just letting our chest sink towards the floor. Keeping the arms straight. This is a bit of a challenge. Come back to your breath. Working quite strongly into the shoulders to release any tension there. Good. So now let's come back up into tabletop. Come back into child's pose for a moment. And then from child's pose, walk the hands back towards your knees and come up. Let's make sure that we have hips over knees. We're going to do another little back bend. So we're going to keep the shoulders back and down, keeping the hips pushing forwards as you breathe in. And as we breathe out, let's allow the chest to come up to the sky. We're going to keep the chin level with the floor for now. Only go back as far as is comfortable. And as you breathe out, let's bring the toes together. We can stack the fists and bring the forehead to the top fist, just to allow the spine the time to release after a back bend. And see if there are any more spaces in the abdomen or in the lower back for you to breathe into. Let's come down to one hand. Okay. So now, back into our child's pose. Come up into tabletop, and with our elbows, the inside of the elbow can line up with the space between the thumb and the forefinger. Let's just make sure that you have got good support, a good base of support for your shoulders. So let's push the hips up and back as we come into downward dog. So your arms and back are straight. Your knees can be bent. I like to keep my heels off the floor, so I've always got a nice big hamstring and calf stretch going on. If you wish to put your heels on the floor, feel free. And let's just hold here for a moment. Pushing into the floor with hands and feet. As much space as you can make between your fingers and your shoulders. Shoulders away from the ears. And if this becomes difficult, feel free to drop the knees down to the floor or lower the knees and breathe. Continue to breathe. Okay. So let's bring the shoulders forwards over the wrists, and then we can come back into downward dog. If you're not happy with this, then come down to hands and knees, and then just did what we did earlier, but keep the chest off the floor. We're going to do that a couple more times. So let's breathe in as we come forwards, keeping the belly tightly up into the spine, and breathe out to downward dog. Let's breathe in, belly into spine as we come into plank, and breathe out. 2 more. Breathe in, belly to spine, push the floor away. Breathe out to downward facing dog. Last one. Breathe in, belly to spine, push the floor away. Breathe out to downward facing dog. Okay, good. So let's walk the feet up to meet the hands. And let's just grasp each elbow with the opposite hand and just dangle for a moment. So the shoulders are relaxed, the chest is open, and the abdomen can release. Okay, let's bring the hands down to the floor. Let's do a halfway lift. You can have your knees bent or straight, whichever works for you. And then let's bend the knees fully. And halfway lift, you may wish to come up with the hands on the shins. And let's bend the knees. Halfway lift. Bending the knees. And halfway lift. This time, as we bend the knees, we're going to keep the knees bent. Let's have about 2 fist distance between the heels. And put the hands now on the hips and see if you can see your toes beyond your knees. Let's straighten up the spine. Shuffle out of the way of the divider. And then lift the arms up into chair pose. And to keep the back straight as we're aiming the bum backwards and the fingers forwards. Come back to your breath. Excuse me. Okay, see if you can bring the hands together. Bring the hands around to the left side. And then bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Transfer your weight to your right foot. And we're stepping the left foot back. So let's bring the right hip back as the left hip comes forwards, and we squeeze the outer thighs inwards, the outer hips come inwards. We can turn the head towards the right. If having the palms together isn't comfortable, just have the hands on the right thigh. Okay, let's bring both hands down to the floor. And let's let the spine extend as we breathe in and breathe out. Good. We can bring the right hand to the right thigh. Pull the top of the leg away from the base of the leg, from the hip socket. Nice and gently, no wrenching. Just to give that feeling of distance between the knee and the hip. And then you may wish to bring your hand to your hip as you bring the belly round to the right. And if it's comfortable, you can lift up the hand. So we are compressing the abdomen, making it a bit harder to breathe. Come back to your breath. Let's bring the right hand down to the floor. Left hand to left hip. Let's lengthen the spine. Feel the release in the abdomen as we now bring the belly around to the left. And to really open up, if it's comfortable, you can reach the left hand up. Shoulders down. Each time you breathe in, let the spine lengthen. Each time you breathe out, twist a little bit more. Okay, let's spin the left heel down, really anchor yourself. You can bring both hands to the thigh to help you pull yourself up. We're keeping the front knee over the front ankle. Let's windmill ourselves up into Warrior Two. You may need to adjust your stance so that your front knee stays over your ankle and your back foot, your little toe, is facing the short edge of the mat. So let's open up. Feel that expansiveness in your chest. Let's let each side of the rib cage lift as our shoulders come down. Enjoy the space. Enjoy the openness of the breath. So let's breathe in. Straighten the front leg, palms together. Breathe out to Warrior Two. Breathe in, arms and legs straight. As you breathe out, left hand to left thigh. Bend the front knee, reach back. Sun Warrior. Breathe in, breathe out, Warrior Two. Breathe in, breathe out, Sun Warrior. Keeping an eye on the front leg. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. This time, let's stay here. Feeling the release and the expansiveness of the breath and the right rib cage. And let's try and keep the left side of the rib cage lifted as well. Okay, let's breathe in, bring both arms up. Let's breathe out to Warrior Two. Interlace your fingers behind your back. As you breathe in, let's lengthen. And as we breathe out, we can begin to bring the head towards the floor. If it is comfortable, begin to lift the hands away from the body. Feel the compression. Feel any restrictions and breathe into them. Okay, let's bring both hands down to the floor. We're going to turn the right toes to face the long edge of the mat. And turn the toes in ever so slightly. So we can have the knees slightly bent. Let's keep the weight, the hips in line with the heels. So some of the weight is towards the back of your feet. You can breathe in to allow the spine to lengthen and breathe out, bringing the fingertips, the hands towards the floor. If your hands don't reach the floor, feel free to use a block or simply place your hands on your thighs or your shins. Okay, let's bring the hands into the center and then heel, toe, so that your feet are fairly close together. So let's experiment before we move into the next pose. See if you can grab your opposite, each leg with the opposite hand. Okay, so going to put left hand to right leg, right hand to left leg. A nice bit of a twisty test. So we're going to breathe in. Bring the head underneath the right arm as much as possible, and then breathe out. Breathe in, twisting everything. And breathe out. Always come back to the breath. 3 more times. Breathe in. Okay, let's bring the hands down to the floor. We are, going to walk around to the other side of the mat. So your left foot will be in front. And then let's step the left foot back, come into plank, shoulders over wrists. And we can lower knees, chest, chin, or if you really want to test your breath, chaturanga. So let's lower slowly, belly into spine to support the lower back. Keep breathing out slowly. And then rolling the shoulders back. We can come into cobra or maybe even upward dog. So the hips and the knees are off the floor. And then we can come back into downward facing dog. And let's rest here for a few breaths. Feel free to take child's pose if that suits you better. Pushing the floor away with the hands. Enjoying the stretch in both directions in your downward dog. Okay, so now let's walk the feet towards the hands. Let's grasp the opposite elbow and just hang for a moment. Maybe sway a little if you wish. Noting any difference between each side of your body. Which side the rib cage is open on a little more. Okay, now hands to the floor, fingertips or your shins as you breathe in. And breathe out. So straightening the legs as much as you can. And breathe out. Breathe in to straighten. And breathe out. Breathe in to straighten. And breathe out. So this time, let's come into our chair pose. Let's reach up. And this time we're going to go over to the left first of all, and now to the right. Done that, haven't we? Do the other way. Let's step the right foot back. So the left hip is now coming back, and the right hip is now coming forwards. Breathing into the twist. Breathing into the compression. And breathing out to release as much as possible. And let's release that down to the floor. Left hand to left thigh. Let's make some distance between the knee and the hip. Extend the chest forwards, and then as we breathe out, let's twist. If it's comfortable, we can lift up the left arm. Feeling the compression and feeling the space in there too. And now let's bring the left hand down, right hand to right hip, reach around, bringing the belly round to the right. If it's comfortable, let's reach up the right hand. And whilst you are continuing to breathe, I'm going to plug this in. because otherwise we're going to lose it. So keep breathing. Keep lengthening the spine with each in-breath. And releasing with each out-breath. It's okay, no one's sore. Good. So now let's bring both hands down to the floor to frame the foot. Spin the back heel down. And let's come all the way up into our beautiful warrior two. So now the right toes, the little toe, is level with the short edge of the mat. We have our front knee over our ankle, shoulders over hips, lots and lots of space in the chest. Let's enjoy this spaciousness. And let's straighten both arms and legs. And breathe out to warrior two. Breathe in to straighten. Right hand to right thigh. Bend the front knee as we breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out, warrior two. Breathe in. Right hand to right thigh. Bend the front knee. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out, feel the stretch and the release and the filling in the left ribs. Last one. Breathe out, let's hold for a moment. Shoulders down, fingertips reaching away. And let's come back through warrior two. Interlace the fingers behind the back. Breathe in as we lengthen the spine and breathe out as we bow the head towards the floor. And if it's comfortable, we can lift the hands away from the body, keeping the palms together if that's comfortable. Breathing into the compression. Breathing out to release. Okay. Let's bring the fingertips to the floor and turn all 10 toes to face the long edge of the mat. We're walking the feet in to do our lovely twisty thing. So this time, right hand to left leg, left hand to right ankle or leg. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, bring the head beneath the left arm. Breathe out. If it's difficult, breathe. Last one. Let's bring fingers back to the floor. You can bend the knees, bring the hands to the waist. As you breathe in, let's come up. So you're going to turn the right foot to the front of the mat and turn the back toes in a bit. You may wish to lengthen your stance. Left hand to left hip. Let's lift up the torso. Let's extend the right arm, put a slight bend in the front knee. And as we breathe out, we're going to reach and reach and reach. And eventually bring the hand down to the shin, the foot, or the floor. Let's keep the spine long as we breathe in. And as we breathe out, let's turn the belly button up towards the sky. Shoulders are back and down. If it's comfortable in your triangle pose, you may wish to raise your left arm. Breathing in, especially to the left side, while we keep the right side of the rib cage lifted. And breathe out to twist a little more. 2 more deep breaths here. Beautiful. Let's turn all 10 toes to face the front. Lengthen the spine as you breathe in, and as we breathe out, allow the torso to drape forwards over the front leg, keeping the right hip pulling backwards, the left hip pulling forwards, with a slight bend in the knee so you're not hanging on the joint, especially if you have hypermobile knees so they go backwards. Slight bend and fold. Lovely. Let's breathe in as we come up halfway. Turn the toes to the long edge of the mat, little bend in the knees as we come up. Left toes face the other edge of the mat. Turn the right heel out a little bit, right hand to right hip. Let's lift up the left arm, lengthen each side of the rib cage, and as we breathe out, let's reach. Slight bend in the left knee as we reach all the way down to the shin, the foot, or the floor, keeping the length in each side of the rib cage. Let's take a breath in, and as we breathe out, let's bring the belly button around to look up at the sky. And then if it's comfortable, your shoulders are stacked over each other, lift the right hand, keeping a slight bend in the front knee, just to avoid hanging on the joint. Two more breaths here. Breathe in, the spine lengthens. Breathe out and twist. And let's breathe out and bring the fingertips to frame the front foot. Turn the back toes to face the front. Square off the hips. Breathe in to halfway lift and breathe out to fold. Beautiful. Let's come back round, walking the hands and the feet back down to the long edge of the mat. Let's breathe in and lift. And let's turn the heels in a little. We're going to come into a squat. Doesn't matter if you can't squat. Just breathe. And now let's make our way down to the floor. That was a very awkward squat, but it was okay. So let's do some twists. So whenever we are compressing, we're finding it harder to breathe. Let's work on our breathing. Let's bend up the right knee and just pop that on the outside of the left leg. We can bring the right hand behind us and hold the knee, the right knee, with the left elbow. So let's breathe in as we lengthen the spine. And let's breathe out and twist. Looking over the right shoulder if it's comfortable. If not, just look along the line of your hip. And be aware of the compression and of how you can breathe out even when things feel very tight. Okay, let's release the left arm, release the right arm, straighten the right leg, bend up the left, and let's bring the left foot to the outside of the right leg. Right elbow wraps around the left knee. Let's reach behind us with the left arm, breathing in to let the spine lengthen and breathe out to twist. Enjoying the release as you breathe out. Lovely. Let's come back to the center. Let's bring the left foot to the floor. Let's lengthen out the leg. Let's come into Dandasana or staff pose. So we have the hands next to the hips, and let's just reach up at the spine as we breathe in. Bringing the chin slightly into the chest. The toes are pointing towards the shins. As you breathe out, we're just going to walk forwards with the hands. And just see where we hang out today. Feel free to bend your knees as much as you need as we do our forward fold. If you wish to bring your feet flat to the floor and use your hands to help keep your back straight as you forward fold, that's absolutely fine. It's your forward fold. And just breathe. Always moving forwards from the hips rather than the shoulders. Okay, let's breathe in as we come up. We're going to lie down, not for a nap, unfortunately. So let's have the feet about hip distance. We're going to prepare for bridge pose. So have the hands flat on the floor. Push the feet into the floor, and keeping the hips and knees and toes all in a line. Let's lift up the hips. See if we can tuck the shoulders under. Maybe, if it's comfortable, you can interlace your fingers underneath your back. If that's not comfortable, just keep the hands on the floor. You may wish to bring the hands under the hips and lift yourself up, supported on the elbows. And then as we breathe out, let's come down vertebra by vertebra, nice and slowly. So the hips are the last things to reach the floor. Okay. So let's bring the right knee into the chest and let the left leg extend. And swap. Left knee into the chest, right leg extends. Okay, let's bring both knees into the chest, have a little waggle, side to side. Then bring the hands to the floor, place the feet down, shuffle the hips over to the right, the left even. As you bring the knees over to the right, you can place the right hand on the left knee, extending the left arm out. If it's comfortable, look towards the left hand. A nice reclining twist. Breathing into all of those little spaces, any more tightness. And as we breathe out, let all of that tension release. Okay, let's bring the knees back into the center, settle the hips again, and then move the hips over to the right, knees to the left, left hand on the right knee, extend the right arm, looking straight up or over the right hand this time. Releasing anything that needs to release, and simply doing that with your breath. Good. Let's bring the feet back to the floor. Let's bring the hips back to the floor. Just take a moment to let the spine settle after its twist. We bring the knees into the chest again. And then bring the knees about shoulder width. You can either have the hands on the thighs, the shins, or if you're feeling it, grab the little toe side of the foot for a spot of happy baby. Have a little waggle around. Roll from side to side. And then let's come into stillness with the tailbone on the floor as much as possible, so you've got the whole of the spine on the floor. Okay, let's bring the feet together, bring the knees together, feet flat on the floor. And just take a moment here in our constructive rest pose, because we're not going to do a traditional Shavasana. We're going to go back to some EFT. Just breathe and see how your body feels and how your mind feels, how your breath feels. Okay, so let's roll over to one side, supporting the head with the lower arm, and then let's push up. And I'll come a bit closer. So you can either sit cross-legged or you can sit kneeling, as I am. And we can just tap again. Tap and breathe. And then maybe tap on the other hand. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Okay, so you may wish to keep your eyes closed as we tap through the sequence again. So let's go to the inside of the eye and we can say, I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. And let's go to the outside of the eye. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. Under the eye. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. Under the nose. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. Into the chin. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. Under the collarbone. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. Under the arm. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. And the top of the head. I am relaxed and I can breathe. Breathe in. Breathe out. So let's bring both hands down to the legs. Let's take 2 slow deep breaths in and out. And when you are ready, let's just lower the chin to the chest and open your eyes and raise your gaze. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different approach to yoga for anxiety, incorporating a little bit of EFT. So focusing quite a lot on the breath and on how to breathe, even when things are literally, physically quite tight. Finding ways to breathe into the tightness and to breathe out, even when everything feels a bit compressed and squished, and just finding that release wherever you can. So if you have any feedback on this session, because it is rather experimental, please let me know. I will be posting more yoga and EFT videos and hopefully making them even better. So thank you very much for practicing with me today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Keep tapping. Namaste.